Imagine you're born into a world with no electricity, no screens, and no classrooms. Your first bed is a pile of animal skins on a stone floor. The closest thing to a playground is the riverbank, or a patch of forest at the cave's edge. This was the reality for Stone Age children's caveman kids whose lives were wilder, tougher, and more adventurous than we can easily imagine. From the moment a child took their first breath in the Paleolithic world, survival was uncertain. As they grew, their games became more competitive. Who could hit a moving target? Who could sneak up quietly on an unsuspecting lizard? These games weren't just fun, they were critical training for the future. The best hunters were those who had practiced since childhood, who knew how to track animals, read the land, and move silently through the grass. Surviving in the wild meant knowing how to work together. Whether it was helping to carry wood, gathering water from a distant stream, or standing guard while others slept, everyone had a role. Around the time of puberty, both boys and girls began to take on more adult responsibilities. They joined real hunts, learned to skin animals, built shelters, and made tools. This transition was sometimes marked by rites of passage, special ceremonies, or challenges that proved they were ready for adulthood. Some archaeologists believe that certain cave paintings, bead necklaces, or even tooth pendants were linked to these rites. And mud, practicing fire-making with flints, or putting on little shows to mimic the adults. Mothers showed daughters how to make clothing from animal hides, while fathers demonstrated the best way to sharpen a spear or follow animal tracks. These were times of excitement for children who might receive new ornaments, special foods, or even their own simple tools. When a member of the group died, whether a child or an adult, the tribe grieved together. Archaeological sites show us that children were buried with care, sometimes with small toys, beads, or tools. But there's still a little Stone Age explorer in all of us. Against all odds, these young humans learned not just to survive, but to thrive, carrying their knowledge forward, one generation at a time, to shape the world we live in today. The desire to climb, run, imagine, and belong is as old as humanity itself. When you see a child building a fort, inventing a game, or sharing a snack with a friend, you're seeing echoes of the very first human families. This tells us that even in the Stone Age, families mourned their children and honored their short lives with tenderness and love. Watching the adults dance, sing, and celebrate, kids learned the rhythms of Stone Age life. Knowledge was never written down. It lived in the memories and voices of those who came before. These group activities helped build bonds that would last a lifetime. In some ways, the differences are obvious. No digital toys, no organized sports, no formal schools. But the similarities are striking too. Stone Age kids learned through play, through imitation, and through trial and error, just like kids today. They faced challenges and setbacks, celebrated victories, and found joy in simple things. They depended on their families and communities for love, support, and protection. Cooperation wasn't just encouraged, it was the glue that held the tribe together. Kids learned that sharing was not just polite, it was essential. Bullying and exclusion might be met with firm lessons from elders, because a divided group was a vulnerable group. Respect for age and experience was deeply ingrained. Grandparents who had survived countless winters and hunts were treasured sources of wisdom and stories. If a child found a hidden stash of berries or snared a rabbit, they brought it back for the whole group. Even a simple broken bone could be deadly if it meant you couldn't keep up with the group. Imagine waking up to the sound of birds, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, and setting off on an adventure with your friends. Every hill was a lookout, every river a chance to swim, every tree a hiding place. The natural world was an endless playground, and curiosity was rewarded at every turn. Kids might chase after frogs, climb rocks, or watch insects, always learning, always exploring. That's why learning first aid, how to bandage wounds with moss, splint broken limbs, and use healing plants was part of every child's education. Kids saw firsthand what happened when someone ignored danger or took unnecessary risks. Greed or selfishness threatened the survival of everyone, so generosity was encouraged and celebrated. Infant mortality rates were high, with many babies never making it past their first birthday. There was time for play, laughter, and creativity. Archaeologists have discovered tiny carved animal figurines, simple flutes made from bird bones, and balls made of wrapped leather, all likely made or used by children. Kids might draw on cave walls with bits of charcoal, copying the art they saw adults making. Sometimes they made their own toys. A small slingshot, a doll from twine and fur, or a string of beads made from shells and seeds. There was no such thing as sitting at a desk or reading from a book. The adults gather around the fire, singing songs that echo through the stone chamber. Kids listen wide-eyed to tales of heroic hunts, dangerous beasts, and magical spirits. In some tribes, girls learned to hunt alongside their brothers, and boys helped gather food or care for younger siblings. The most important thing was learning every skill possible, because in the unpredictable Stone Age world, you never knew what you'd need to do to survive. These stories didn't just entertain, they taught morals, history, and the lessons learned by countless generations before. Instead, learning happened by watching, listening, and doing. Every day was packed with opportunities to pick up essential skills. Toddlers played with sticks, stones, and bits of fur, slowly developing coordination and muscle strength. Even the simplest games, rolling pebbles, tossing pine cones, splashing in puddles, helped develop the skills needed for adult survival. Illness, predators, accidents, and even simple hunger could snuff out a life before it really began. Every healthy child was precious, cherished by parents and the whole tribe. If you were lucky enough to survive those dangerous first years, your education began immediately, not in a school, but through constant hands-on learning in the wildest classroom on Earth. A Stone Age child's first teachers were their parents, older siblings, and everyone else in the group. Before long, children joined their mothers, aunts, and grandmothers as they foraged for food. They learned to spot edible roots, berries, and mushrooms. They watched as nimble fingers dug tubers from the ground and gathered nuts from high branches. These lessons weren't just about filling bellies. They were about recognizing danger too. The wrong berry or root could be deadly, and learning to avoid poisonous plants was a matter of life and death. Children learned these lessons early, sometimes from stories told around the fire, and sometimes by watching what happened to the careless or unlucky. Stone Age children also became apprentice hunters. Boys especially, but often girls too, practiced throwing small spears, aiming at targets carved from wood or made from mud. But life for Stone Age kids wasn't all danger and discipline. Music and storytelling were huge parts of childhood. Imagine a cold night in the cave with the wind howling outside. One of the most important skills for Stone Age children was teamwork. Girls and boys might have different daily routines, but the boundaries were flexible. As Stone Age children grew older, their training intensified. Social bonds were as important as practical skills. Children learned who to trust, how to negotiate, and how to resolve disputes without violence. But growing up Stone Age wasn't easy. Illness, injury, and hunger were constant threats. For all its challenges, Stone Age childhood could be magical. Sometimes entire groups of children worked together on projects, building miniature shelters from sticks. The bonds between generations were also crucial. Elders passed down songs, stories, and practical advice. Occasionally, the community gathered for bigger events, seasonal feasts, the arrival of migrating herds, or special ceremonies. Of course, Stone Age children also experienced loss and hardship. So how does growing up as a Stone Age child compare to modern childhood? Today's children might have safer lives, more choices, and a world of information at their fingertips. The story of Stone Age childhood is one of resilience, adventure, and endless curiosity.